Hi everyone, Fast Track, and this is a supplementary video for the orientation presentation. Now you might recall that in the meeting video I mentioned that during the meeting it might be necessary to show them what we do and indeed how we do it. Some of the concepts, some of the ideas, also how we can help them. And this presentation, the orientation in other words, is a way of demonstrating our expertise in these different areas, and therefore it can be very useful in closing the business. And indeed, it comes with a built-in close, as you'll see. So what I'm going to do is run through the orientation as though you are the client. So it's going to be me presenting it to you. It's a difficult position or a difficult situation when you're talking to no one, as you can imagine. But what I want to do is express some of the ideas and some of the concepts to you, and perhaps give you a little bit of language and a few stories and anecdotes around it that you can then use. So I'm going to kick this off in a moment. Now, just so that you know, the presentation is in PowerPoint, and it's a slightly different size screen. So it's more square than the widescreen that you're looking at, as you'll see. So this should go onto your laptop or onto your handheld device, whether it be an iPad or whatever, fairly easily because of its size. And on that, we'll kick it off. Oh, just one more thing. I shall take time out now and then just to explain things to you. What I don't want you to do is confuse my presentation with my side notes, if you will, to you. I'll announce that this is on the side. I hope that's clear. On with the show. Right, so we're here today to talk about increasing your company's performance by way of customers, sales and profits. And these are the things that you were telling me that you really want to do, you really want to see happen. That your challenge up to now has been that your sales have been down, the economy and indeed your competitors seem to be getting the better of you. And so I want to show you how we can change all of that. So we'll just go through this presentation together, and let me introduce to you some of our key concepts and some of the things that we can do for you. And I think you'll be very excited about this. So here's what I'm looking for us to achieve out of today's meeting. Number one, to get a clear understanding of what your issues and challenges are. And I think you've been fairly explicit in telling me that, both over the phone and in our preliminary discussion just now. Secondly, to get an outline for you to see how our business acceleration system can work to achieve your goals and your objectives over the forthcoming year and indeed years to come. 3, to outline, and I'll do this for you, some effective strategies so that you can work on your business rather than in your business, which is what so many people do. In other words, you're running the business rather than it running you. You're working the hours you want to work and being paid the kind of money that you want, rather than having to work those hours and probably paying yourself less than what you're paying to some of your senior employees, as you expressed. I guess also it gives you the freedom then to be able to work when you want to work rather than when you have to. And we'll help you with that as well, so that you can step back from the business and really have a money-making machine that provides for you and your family and for your ambitions and indeed for your future. And fourth, to provide you with and to help you follow a proven program of continuous improvement. And we'll do that by implementing our techniques and methods and the systems, some of which I'm going to explain to you now so that you can see just how good they are. You might want to know who we are. We're an international business development consulting operation, and we operate in a multitude of countries around the world, including the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, Germany, Sweden, the UAE and the Middle East, and we've recently opened up in the Far East as well. So we really are a global organization. And really our market is SMEs. That's who we help. We're not working with the very large companies. We specialize in providing SMEs with a service and with the ability to help them to grow and develop. Talking of which, in development of this program that you're going to see, our founders looked at over 3,400 marketing campaigns, ads, sales methods, and business improvement systems in order to provide this system of business improvement that we're going to have a look at. I already mentioned we work with small and medium-sized businesses, and everything we do is time-tested, and it's very step-by-step. So we're not going to get caught up in technicalities. It's all roll your sleeves up. It's practical. It's getting down to business, and indeed, it's helping you to grow and accelerate that growth within your company. You'll see at the bottom there, that's our strapline. Our business is to grow your business. And indeed, that's what we do. Who am I? Side note here, folks. This is where you need to put your experience or expertise into this. Now, you need to give it a bit of spin. So you don't want to put dreary facts about yourself. I left school with, when I was 18 and I did this and I did that. Put the highlights of your career in here. Some of these you might not really need to change. I mean, you look at the third bullet point there, extensive business training, that can stay. And, you want to build your own bullet points here, pretty much around the format that's outlined, so that it's interesting. And as I say, it highlights your achievements in your business career. Okay, end of side note. So that's who I am, Mr. Prospect. Here's some testimonials for you to have a look at. There's, I don't know whether you've heard of Computer World, but we worked with them. And there's various other companies here, including the Bank of Ireland and a chartered accounting company. So there's lots of different folks that we've worked with and helped them build their business. And this is by no means an extensive or exhaustive list. There's a lot more. Okay, so why is business getting tougher and tougher? Let's have a look at some of the problems. And I think that in talking to you, you expressed, perhaps not in these words, some of these challenges yourself. For instance, the clutter factor. This is interesting to know about the clutter factor because this is why stuff doesn't work for companies like yours and, so many other people out there. The fact is that we're each bombarded with over 3,000 commercial messages every day. And though it might not seem it, or it might seem like a gross exaggeration, it isn't. These are all the marketing messages that you're picking up or passing or looking at and not noticing every single day. Just in opening the newspaper over breakfast, you're being exposed to perhaps somewhere in the region of 200, 300, 400 ads. Even though you're not looking at them, they're there. They're trying to interrupt your attention to look at them. For most of us, we just ignore them, because why do we buy newspapers? To read the news. We don't look at the ads, unless you're a little bit sad like me, because I study these things. But the fact is that with so many commercial messages, you're not just marketing against other people in your industry, but you're marketing against everyone. And that's because everybody is vying for the attention of the consumer or of the reader or the listener or wherever your ads are. Everybody's trying to grab their attention. And frankly, just look at yourself. I know it's the same with me. A lot of this stuff I just ignore. It's almost like we take antibiotics against it. So what we've got to ask ourselves is that how are we going to break out of this clutter, this junk? Our marketing is somebody else's clutter. The marketing that you're looking at is clutter for you and for me. So how are we going to break through that? How are we going to get our messages seen or heard, listened to, This is the big question we've got to ask ourselves. Unfortunately, we got some great answers for you. We've got the solution, and I'll talk about that in a little while. Number two is reputation. People buy from people that they trust, companies and individuals. And the lack of credibility can affect customer confidence. And it's the biggest reason why people don't buy. And again, I want to examine why people don't buy in a little more detail in a short while. But point is this, they don't know you. So we have to do something about that so that more people out there know you, and in knowing you, they trust you and have confidence in what you do. And therefore, they're more likely to buy. Number three, competition. You said it yourself, you've got a lot of competitors out there, and what we're going to be doing here is looking at ways where we can outperform, outmarket, out-advertise, and indeed outmaneuver them in every possible way. And that's what this is all about. And finally, the economy. There's a big slump out there, you know it, and again, you know, it's something that you've made me very aware of for your own business, and therefore we're going to look at how we can not just survive but thrive regardless of the state of this economy. Does that sound good? Side note here, we're going to use tie downs a lot. A tie down is a statement like, is that fair enough? Does that sound good? Does that sound the kind of thing that you want? Or simply a okay, yeah, or just a look. These tie downs act as kind of mini closes, and it's like gaining acknowledgement of what you've said along the way. Now, you don't use them on every slide, but because you're doing a lot of talking here rather than it being dialogue, you want to therefore ensure that, number one, they're paying attention, that they're interested, but they're involved in it as well, that they're getting it, they're understanding it, they're accepting it, and even that they're excited about it. So you want to know that. You want a verbal acknowledgement of it. Also, the good thing about tie downs is that it pulls out any objections or any doubts or issues that they might have along the way, rather than them, you know, piling them all up and putting them upon you at the end. And that's why the close is so natural with this, as you'll see, because there's no objections there. You've handled any of those along the way, and we've got them saying yes as well as we go. So by saying, does that sound good, or does that sound fair enough, does that make sense, and they say yes, then they are in their own minds as well acknowledging that this is good, this is fine, this is right, there's no issues. Okay? End of side note. So what's wrong with business? Well, you don't need me to tell you this, Mr. Prospect. It's tough, and marketing, as you've already said, is a bit of a headache because, and these are your words, not mine, it isn't working for you. So that's where we come in, and that's where we're going to help. So let's look at some of the other issues that face businesses today. And I said I'd return to this. Look, there are three main reasons why people don't buy. Now, I know that some of this might sound obvious, but a lot of people, when I've shown them this slide, have never really thought about it quite like this, or have not articulated it or been able to articulate it in this way. There are three big reasons, and it's all about not knowing people, trusting them, having confidence. But the three reasons people don't buy are these. Number one, they haven't got the money. So why are we bothering with them? Number two, they haven't got the need. Same thing, why are we bothering with them? But number three is that they haven't got the trust. And we can't do anything about those first two, as it says on here. In fact, we shouldn't even be looking at them as prospective customers. We need to filter those out, and I'm going to show you how to do that once we get into our main business acceleration system, should we go ahead with this. That third one, there's lots we can do about no trust. And I kind of hinted at this when we were talking earlier, you know, by saying that we need to build up trust, confidence, and get people to accept us. In other words, get your reputation out there And that's what this does. You've got to develop the level of trust and believability that people are going to need in order to do business with you. You understand that, right? Good. Okay. You've probably seen this statistic before, that 80% of businesses fail in their first 5 years. And indeed, of the 20% that's left over, 80% of them have gone 5 years after that. So over a 10-year period, 24 out of 25 businesses fail. Now, why is that? Frankly, when I asked this question of other business owners in the past, many of them have said that, well, it's because of partnership disputes or shareholder disputes or mismanagement or underfunding and a host of other reasons like that. And whilst those things might be contributory, the real reason that businesses go out of business is that they run out of money. They run out of cash, literally. And where does cash come from? Cash comes from customers. So cash is king, and therefore so are the customers. So the real reason here is they run out of cash because they haven't got a sufficient number of qualified prospects coming in. And those prospects that they are getting, and does this sound familiar? Yeah? The customers they are getting, or rather the prospects they're getting, they're not converting as many as they need to into profitable customers. And then the customers that they actually get, they're then starting to lose. So without a profit, without a proper sales and marketing system in place, it's going to continue to happen. And I know that you accept that. So let's have a look how we can get more business, more customers, more sales, more profits, so that you can not only survive, as I said before, but thrive, irrespective of the economic conditions or your competitors or the market or whatever. Sound good? Great. Here's what we do. We take you through the critical actions and all the elements necessary for you to develop a fulfilling and lucrative business. And the process that we put in place will show you what to do, why you're doing it. It'll give you the step-by-step details and also the hows, wherefores, and whys, so that you clearly understand how this operates and how it works. In other words, we're going to kind of make you your own marketing guru. Sound good? Okay. So there's no theory here. There's a methodology, but everything is based on tried and tested systems and strategies that have been used over and over again, as I explained right at the beginning. It's worthy just to have a look at what the real purpose of business is, because a lot of people feel that they're in the business of whatever they're selling, products or services. Typically, an accountant might say, well, we're in the accounting business. A lawyer might say, we're in the legal business. And you have mentioned to me when we were talking on the telephone that you're in the retail business. And a lot of people feel that that's the business they're in, when in actual fact, all businesses, and I know you kind of accept this, all businesses are in the sales and marketing business. We sell and market. So accountants aren't in the accountancy business, they're in the business of selling accountancy services. And this was expressed extremely well by the great business guru, Peter Drucker, who sadly is dead now, but you might remember his name from years ago when he saved General Motors the first time around when they had difficulties. And then he went on to Harvard and became a professor there and wrote a lot of books. But here's a big statement, at least it is for me, and I hope it is for you as well, because it illustrates what business is really all about and the things we need to concentrate on in order to grow and develop. He said, because its purpose is to create a customer, the business has got two and only two functions: marketing and innovation. Marketing and innovation produce results, and all the rest are costs. So, rather well put. In other words, we need to concentrate on the marketing and the innovation. Now, you know what marketing's about, right? What about innovation? No? Okay. Innovation, and I'll spend a little bit of time on it in a moment, is really about how people perceive you, how they see you. and it's all about appearing different from all of your competitors. It's not about inventing different things, but it's about putting out there a message that is unique, that is different. If you look at all the great companies in the world, all of them do things differently. And that's what we have to do with you. And I'll explain some of that in a little while. In fact, I'll explain it now. Years ago, in the United States, and I think that this is a tremendous way of illustrating the point, there were some people there called the railroad barons. And this is way back in the 1830s, 1840s. And these railroad barons became very wealthy and influential and very powerful because they built the railways, or the railroads, as the Americans call them, that crisscrossed the United States. And it's how the West was won. They were able to provide fast transportation from the populous eastern states and open up those wild western territories and the Midwest. And they're able to move enormous amounts of people and goods and services to establish new towns, new cities over in those territories. And America was really built on the railroads. And that's how they became so powerful, wealthy, and influential. But in the 1930s, 1940s, this influence was starting to wane. And in fact, they went out of business. And the reason they went out of business is because this is their descendants, obviously. The reason they went out of business is because they thought they were in the railroad business. And they weren't. What had happened is that Henry Ford had come along and he'd started making trucks. And really what they should have done is gone to Henry Ford and said, Henry, how many trucks are you making this year? And Henry says, well, going to make 400. Okay, we'll take the lot. And then they buy those trucks from him and they put them outside of their railroad stations and they build depots for them and they deliver then goods and services to where their locomotives don't go. But of course they didn't see that. They probably did a SWOT analysis and instead saw Henry Ford as a threat, when in fact he was an opportunity. Because what they didn't realize in believing they were in the railroad business is that they ignored the actual fact of what business they were really in. And the business they were really in was transportation. They were in distribution and logistics, but they just didn't see it. And that's why they went out of business. Domino's Pizza is another tremendous illustration, great story, of how two brothers built one of the largest franchises in the world from a couple of little pizza stores that operated, I think, in Philadelphia. And they were trying to build their business, and they had a few experts in, and they were saying to the experts, look, I guess a bit like our meeting here right now. We want to build our business. What can we do? And a few people said to them, well, got to advertise better. Tell people that, you bake the best pizza. Well, the problem is with that is that everybody says that they bake the best pizza. So somebody else says, well, why don't we tell people that we only use the freshest ingredients? Well, again, who's not going to say that? So eventually, after a few meetings, a bright spark put his hand up and said, look, I think we're ignoring something here. And what we're ignoring is that we're not in the pizza business. And there was silence in the room. What do you mean we're not in the pizza business? Well, we're not in the pizza business. The business we're actually in is very different. And the two brothers were aghast with this. And they said, well, of course we're in the pizza business. We sell pizzas. Ah, said this expert. You might sell pizzas, but that's not why people are buying the pizzas. And he said, look, I've researched this, and what's happening is that, your stores are very close to the university, and lots of students buy pizzas in particular. And what they're doing is they're getting back from their lectures at the university in the evening, and they're tired, or they've got wild parties to go to, or, and do all the other wild things that students do, or maybe write a dissertation or two. They don't have time to cook. They don't want to take the time out. They just don't want to do that. So what do? They pick up the phone and they order a takeaway. And in this case, they order pizza. And that's the real market. The market is in delivery. In other words, you're not in the pizza business. You're in the convenience business. You are filling somebody's requirement and need to be fed now. And that's what we need to concentrate on. They took this guy not only at his word, but investigated, and he was absolutely right. And so they moved away from trying to sell pizzas and instead started selling delivery. And you've probably heard their famous phrase, their strapline: red hot pizza delivered to your door in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. And from that, they built a multi-billion-dollar organization. It's one of the great success stories, but it's all built around recognizing the business that they are really in, and it wasn't pizza. And getting back to my point about what Peter Drucker was saying, this is a great illustration of innovation. And that's, Mr. Prospect, what we got to do for you. What do you think of that? Good, yeah. Okay. Right, so we're going to use our system. We're going to identify what business you're really in as well. Here's something else that you might want to consider: wallet share. Now, there are two kinds of share. There's market share, which you've heard about, of course, and that's where, you've got a piece of the pie or a piece of the cake of your market, as is illustrated here. But then there's wallet share. And wallet share is understanding that the customer relationship can be leveraged, and looking at what else can we sell to your customers, and how can we also provide additional services or products that they might need and want that we're not doing right now. And so market share is a flat pie in the way that you see, and you've got your piece of that pie. And in order to expand your market, it means that we've got to take share from elsewhere. In other words, some other poor bugger has got to suffer as a result. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's what business is all about, growth, and there are winners and losers, and we've got to make sure that you're a winner. But with market share, it's far easier and far cheaper to increase the revenue and the profits of the company, because we're dealing with people that already know us and trust us. Yeah, it's just like what we were saying before about reasons why people don't buy. We don't encounter those issues with current customers because the trust and the confidence is already established. So 7 to 8 times more difficult to find new customers, and 7 to 8 times more expensive. Having said that, look, we're very good at finding new customers, and we'll do that for you as well. However, the quick money, the easy money, is in the wallet share, and we'll look at how we can do that. And there is an absolute mass of strategies that we can put in place, and some of these are instant. Some of these are going to be able to build your profits really, really quickly. And in a business like this, I can see it booming in a very short period of time. And this is what we call cash windfalls. And I can find some of those for you. How does that sound? Great. Okay, the other thing we want to do is make irresistible offers. You've probably seen The Godfather, yes? Yeah, okay, so this is where we're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. And in doing that, we need to work out what the actual lifetime value of customers really is. And when you ask business owners, look, how much is a customer worth to you? Many business owners will reflect on what the customer last spent and say, they spent $50, €50, £50, whatever it is, and that's their value. When in fact it isn't. The real value of a customer is how much do they spend, how many times a year do they spend it, and over how many years on average does a customer remain? And that is the real value. And when you know that and you take away the cost of the sale, that's cost of client acquisition, as it says on here, then what you end up with is a hell of a lot more money than what you can imagine. And we've got a very nifty way of working all this out for you, and we'll do that. But it means then that you now know how much you've got to spend to, one, acquire new customers, because you know what they're going to be worth in the long term, and two, keep the current customers that you already have so that they don't drift away. And I'm talking about VIP schemes, about, continuous offers and many other things, and on this slide, I use the term ethical bribe. In other words, we're going to offer them things that are going to build up trust, confidence with you, make them very happy, and want them to come back, and furthermore, get them shouting out about just how good you are. They become advocates, and that's where we want them to be. So, what can you offer? That's a question to pose right now to your prospects. These are customers. These are people that aren't yet customers that they simply can't refuse to get them in the door. And look, I'll work with you on that. We got some very nifty exercises that we can do to work out exactly what can be done. And by the way, it's not about discounting. Discounting is a very bad and poor long-term marketing strategy. It's not where you want to be, and you've heard of Groupon, and you might have even used it, and that's what that encourages. But as a long-term strategy, it just doesn't work, and it puts people out of business. Okay, look, here's something that I think you'll find very exciting. These are what we call the 7 alchemy keys, or the profit multipliers. Let's face it, there's a limit to how much you can cut costs, and no doubt you've been doing that, yeah? Yes, okay. Most businesses are. In times of economic difficulties like this, they start looking at cutting costs. The problem is with cutting costs is it's a very limited strategy, and it's not long before quality and service is affected. So you can only go so far with it before things really begin to suffer, and you'll lose customers that way. So it makes sense, doesn't it, to use strategies that don't have a limit. And there are only 7 ways to do that. And we call these as I said, the 7 alchemy keys. So here's how you can grow a business without cutting costs. Number 1, get more customers. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're going to do. Should we move ahead with this? Secondly, boost conversion rates. So the customers that come in, instead of us getting, say, 25% of them, what do we have to do to get 30, 35, 40? And I've got a lot of strategies that I'll share with you that we can put in place in order to do that. Number 3, increase the average size of customer transactions. So we're talking averages. The average customer comes in and, instead of getting them to buy, say, 30, 40 pounds, dollars, euro of your product, they buy 40, 50, 60 pounds worth. So we increase the average size. McDonald's are very good at this. You walk in and ask for a quarter pounder with cheese, and they ask you if you want fries, and that's called a cross-sell. Next time you walk in, you ask for a quarter pounder meal, and they ask you if you want to go large, because you've got this package, that is the fries, the burger, and the drink. Now they want to increase the size of that sale. So we'll look at lots of things like that, and many, many more strategies as well. Building profit margins, and maybe there are some costs that we can look at here, but there are other things as well. There are many ways of building profit, and again, I'll share a lot of those strategies with you, and we'll select the most appropriate and the best ones for your business. Number 5, increasing the frequency of purchase. In other words, let's get them coming back more often. How can we do that without reducing the overall take from them over a 12-month period? So, if on average they're coming in 6 times a year, how can we get them to come in 7, 8, 9 times a year? Boosting customer retention. So we'll work out this customer lifetime for you, and in doing that, we'll look at what is the average number of years that customers stay before they drift off, for one reason or another. How can we retain them much longer? And this will have an immediate impact because, there's probably many of your customers approaching that period right now, right? Okay. And finally, getting more referrals. This is magic. This is easy business. But many people just don't know how to do it. A lot of people think that word of mouth is a referral generation system. The truth it isn't. And that's because it's not proactive. Word of mouth is, as it suggests, word of mouth. You're waiting for somebody to pass it on. What we need to do is encourage people to actually refer others to us. And we've got a lot of methods, in fact 57 of them, just for doing that. And we'll share those and start putting them in place. Remember that referrals are free business. You know, these are people that are going to come to you that haven't cost anything or very little, and they come pre-positioned with trust and confidence already built in because you have been endorsed by a friend, relative, or whatever. Now, increasing just one of these is going to add to your bottom line, right? Okay, but what we're going to do is look at all of them, and one multiplies upon the other so that you get an incremental increase, exponential, in your overall profits. And I got a nifty calculator to show exactly how this works and how it can produce you enormous amounts in a fairly short period of time just by increasing each of these by a little bit. Exciting, right? Good. Okay, so in summary, this system is designed to give you everything that you need to know in order to turn your business into a money-making machine. And let's face it, that's where everybody wants to be. And I'll help you in putting this together. We'll look at the most effective, profitable, and powerful business growth strategies that there are. And as I said before, this is step by step. I will be there beside you to work this through, to put the plan together and to take you through it to ensure that everything is on the right track, and then we'll put it in place, systemize it to give you repeatable results week after week. Does that sound exciting? Fantastic. Well, look, here's what I suggest. This is a way forward. I'll work with you over a trial period of just 3 months, and during that time, I'll implement a lot of what I've been talking about into your business. In fact, I'll concentrate my efforts solely on increasing sales and on increasing your profits. Now, if following this that we're both happy, then what I'd like to do is that we continue on for a further 9 months. And what I'll do is lay the permanent foundations for the development, improvement of your company. And indeed, we can talk about how you can have an exit strategy in order to really capitalize on your business long term. So what do you think? Would you like to give it a try? Side note here, in saying would you like to give it a try, which is a very powerful closing statement, would you like to give it a try? It's very easy. It just kind of slips in there. It's silk. It's wonderful. It doesn't sound like they're agreeing to anything really permanent. And in fact, they're not. It's a 3-month trial. But in saying, would you like to give it a try? Extend your hand out to shake. Nod and smile. I know it sounds contrived. Practice it and do it naturally. But it is one of the most powerful things I have ever seen. And I can't tell you how many success stories that we have had over the years that have been as a result of somebody at the end of the presentation, or indeed at any time, extending their hand out, smiling and nodding and saying, would you like to give it a try? It is very difficult for people to refuse to shake your hand. They don't even know how much it's going to cost yet. So there we are. That's it. That's how it works. And that's how you close it up. Now, while we're just on the subject of money, let me explain this, because they're going to say, well, how much is it going to cost? And I think I've already said that you need to really decide what retainer you want out of this. And the retainer is very important, particularly in these early days. We're also going to talk about performance fees as well, of course, but performance fee only business generally is for deal making. You can do it with clients like this, but you want to be sure that the business is going to stick long term, because there's nothing worse than working with somebody over 2 or 3 months and they give up and you've been doing it on performance only. And so you haven't really had time for that money to start to generate because, people can give up. Here's something else. When you're telling people that you're looking for a retainer, if they show any, and you might have said that you're going to work mainly on performance, and then you introduce this retainer, they might kind of give you a bit of a sharp look. What you then have to do is explain to them, look, I'm looking for commitment from you, Mr. Prospect. I'm very committed to this. I'm very committed to make it happen for you. So much so that I am putting myself on the line by taking the majority of my fee as a performance related fee. So I only get paid on your success. And it's like me slapping down £20 or $20 on the table and saying, would you give me $5 for that? Well, it's a no-brainer. Of course you would. So that's what I'm doing here. However, it's important that there's skin in the game on both sides. And so I'm looking for a commitment from you. I'll build your business. I'll develop it. I'll grow it for you. We've got the strategies. We've got the time-tested methods to help you here. But I'd like some commitment from you. And when you put it like that, it's very difficult for people to say no. You're not being salesy here or any of that. You talk in business. And we are in the business. You are in the business of business. And that's why you must do this. But getting the retainer, have a look around. You want to make it, as I said before, anywhere between a couple of $1,000, pounds, euro, whatever your currency is, up to whatever. One of my guys in Australia, he doesn't go out the door for less than 10,000 a month. One of our people in the UK was getting £15,000 a month. Now, to begin with, you might not want to go in at that kind of amount because you haven't yet built up, if you like, and I don't want to put a dampener on this, but your confidence. When you've got a few clients under your belt, it's so much easier, it's so much better. You feel that you're worth every penny, and you are, and certainly the systems are. But to begin with, you might want to look at, those lower figures. And occasionally, if you see a really good opportunity, go lower. But bear in mind that you always want to be improving. And it's not unusual for consultants to fire their clients. We've got a number of our people that have got rid of clients over the years simply because the clients aren't doing what they're meant to do. And if you're in that situation, you really don't want to, continue on with it. So, fire them if you have to. And move on to better clients. Always be looking to improve. And on that note, I hope you've got a lot out of this session. As I say, it's supplementary, but it is something I said I'd provide here. I hope it's been useful. And of course, the PowerPoint is in the resources right there ready for you to download. As always, I wish you every success.